You might have seen the most recent announcement for AI industry, and that was Google's Gemini announcement, which focused on multimodality and Jarvis-like interaction between the actual user and the AI.
What if I add this?
The bird is swimming in the water. It has a long neck and beak. What the quack? I was just talking about a blue duck.
Would this float?
But it looks like it might be rubber or plastic. I accept the challenge. The cup to the left. I know what you're doing. You're playing rock, paper, scissors. Both are food. The orange is a healthier choice than the cookie. Citrus can be calming, and so can the spin of the fidget toy.
It blew everyone's mind and it looked too good to be true, and it was. It was a highlight reel, ultimately. Now, there is an exception to this though. One of the videos was to do with the UX, with the user intent, and how
to understand and reason about users' intent and generate bespoke user experiences. Gemini goes and creates a bespoke interface to help me explore ideas.
I received quite a few different reach outs talking about, is this the end of UX, product management, and front-end development? Product teams are done for, and there is not going to be any design or development needed. Exactly what I'm going to do today. We're going to walk through that video and I'm going to share some of my initial takes.
Say I'm looking for inspirations for a birthday party theme for my daughter. Gemini says, I can help you with that. At this point, instead of responding in text, Gemini goes and creates a bespoke interface to help me explore ideas.
This is immediately like poor UX. Unless the actual users opened this specific chat, which makes you UIs or produces some sort of interfaces, it would be really hard to predict what's going to happen next. So it breaks heuristics already. Why would I even need to get a UI for it? Just give me an answer. I really just need ideas for a birthday party. I don't need a UI created. I don't need like an interface.
Lots of ideas. It's visually rich. It's interactable. Now, none of this was coded up. It was all generated by Gemini. Gemini uses a series of reasoning steps, going from broad decisions to increasingly higher resolution of reasoning, finally getting to code and data.
Because this is quite important, like education of the AI capabilities and building trust with the actual users, or portraying exactly where they are on the journey, is super important. And this is me just evaluating the actual UX of the chatbot itself.
Gemini considers, does it even need an UI? Is a text prompt best?
And that's it. I want to hear more, because that's where it's interesting. Like, how does the actual bot predefine what the user needs? And how do you explain to the user what they should be looking at? I feel like that flexibility and customization, personalizing the experience, is really important. The user should be able to tell you, give me the UI, or don't give me the UI, or some sort of other outputs from the actual AI capability. The user has specified that they want to have an outdoor party for their daughter who likes animals. I like this meta presentation, but I feel like this was created just to demo of what goes behind the scenes on a very abstracted level too, like without giving too much, obviously, but kind of like explaining to you and myself who just like are considering or would be considering or interested in this tool to actually say, okay, this is how we kind of do it. But it's still a bit too abstracted. I mean, I don't really find anything interesting here.
Next is a critical step. Gemini writes the product requirement document, or PRD. It contains the plan for the kinds of functionality the experience will.
So this is where a couple of my PM friends actually highlighted this. The PRD is like a bread and butter for any product manager, especially working on new things. I wonder, how did they mentally map the actual PRD and where did it come from? Like, was their intent actually saying, okay, this is how product managers and designers and developers work together, and this is what the steps they take, they diverge and converge, and this is exactly what we want our bot to be. So they kind of coded the mental model, which has been the case, let's say in my experience, then working with actual people whose ways of working or jobs or tasks have to be automated. Well, you talk to the people, you capture how they think, and then you shape the technology around that. So I think that's what they did, but on a super simplistic level. Or at least that's what we're showing.
For instance, it should show different possible party themes, some activities. It thinks that the user will like to explore a list of options. It uses this to design a list and detailed layout that we saw.
This is just napkin note, basically. And I guess the most interesting bit here really is just what this experiment does with classification, clarification, 1 and 2, and then PRD and so forth. Like just zooming out and thinking, okay, what are we trying to achieve? And what we're trying to achieve is really just to capture the mental models of, I guess, a product manager. But my pet peeve here is that the actual users who interact with this bit, do they need their bot to be a product manager to give them this UI than a list could do or a simple interface could do? Again, this is a lot of meta level issues which are kind of brought together and bunched together, and I feel like, quite frankly, not that impressive apart from, I guess, the interaction bits here and there.
With this design, it writes the Flutter code to compose the interface out of widgets and write any functionality needed.
Again, who needed that? Like, how did we jump from the ideas, clarification, to actual UI? This blows my mind a bit of their choices to use this as a demo, but it's a meta point.
Clicking on the interface regenerates the data to be rendered by the code it wrote.
I think this looks pretty good, as long as, again, the users are aware of what we're going to receive. I like that, you know, we can kind of dig deeper into the actual information. That's where, I guess, the UI comes in hand. So you can get a bit of more context of activities, even if it's super high level.
I can now click on anything in the interface and ask it for more information, and it starts to generate a new UI.
Who asked for the actual UI? I do like the actual depth of it, that you contextually can just pick a word and just get more information in it, but that you could do with ChatGPT. I guess they're just kind of trying to present that multimodality, that again, you can interact with a lot of different forms of media, of prompts of intent, and then receive different information presented differently with some depth and, you know, obviously Flutter UI and tech behind it.
I want to find some suitable cake toppers for this. At this point, Gemini again decides to create a visually rich experience. It generates a gallery of images. Notice the drop-downs at the top.
I guess for visual content like that, this is quite handy to just get like a gallery pick. I think the filters and things of that nature also are handy. And again, it's a meta point of the actual UX of the interfacing with this tool.
This is going to be a fun birthday party.
Well, I hope that's not the only thing this person is going to do for the child's birthday party. You kind of have to go and action it. So that's where I would think a meta point of UX to zoom out and think, okay, like actual people going to use this, but what do we do next? Or what do we do before? Do we print this? Do they send this to the actual bakery? Do they make it themselves by hand? Things of that nature. It's like, that's where UX is. It's not just within the interface or a digital tool. It's around it. Let's go back and talk about the actual points here where people are thinking that this is going to now replace everyone. In reality, this is just a different interface of the same GPT. Now, it obviously can spit out structured content, and it obviously is predefined in certain components. It can get smarter over time, but all those filters which we saw before are also predefined for it. Like this decision tree or this sequencing tree of how it arrives at something is also predefined for it. There is little, I guess, scare in my head that this could replace UX or product management or developers. Again, it's obviously scratching the surface in a first step, but even if you look at that PRD, it's very simplistic and it could get richer with more inputs from the user, but that's not what the real challenges in real life look like. If you fret that your UX job or product design job or product management or development job on a front end would be impacted by this, of course it will be, but not in the way you think, because you are the producer and this is just a presentation of the outputs AI spits out in text and images. It's as simple as that. If you're scared of this, then you should probably be scared because it means that you're creating or solving very small problems, because these problems solved here are very small. This is not your enterprise tool or a tool which is going to require a lot of thinking on a service level or has a lot of interaction touch points for product perspective, for growth factors to it to succeed. The real challenges which UXers, product managers and developers address are super complex. This to me is, impressive from, I guess, UX perspective. We do a lot of damage from UX perspective because we are running short on certain things. And also the biggest thing which is missing to me is the why. Obviously, you can enrich what you have. You can improve on what you have. It's not anything to do with the actual complex user experiences, where user researchers and product designers add most value anyways, and they're hired to do that complex problem solving. They're never hired just to do, like presentation of this, unless they're of course specialized in graphic design. They just do web design or web development, so to speak, like a very basic webflow stuff. And of course you could be threatened. UX involves so many deep disciplines that this is still yet another kind of noise element instead of a signal. Obviously, don't dismiss it. The bespoke experiences here are, if you could call that, I wouldn't really call that. I think this is just capturing basic user intent to generate some UI which contains the chatbot or AI bot outputs. And that's about it. But what are your thoughts? Do let me know in the comments. Smash that like button, share with a friend. And on that note, don't fret. Focus on what matters. And I'll see you next time.